All right, welcome everybody. Welcome, Ged. Andor fully hit its stride last night. let's just say.
Look, I'm going to start this one off with probably in a way I don't think I've ever started off a recap with you. Andor season 2 is the single greatest season of any Star Wars property TV show.
Yeah.
Period.
I don't like. Obviously, there's some argument there because some people. I feel bad for the people who can't get into Andor.
Yeah.
Like I know it's long drawn. Like I know sometimes it's like long drawn out to tell these stories, but the payoff on them is so much more meaningful by doing all that world building and lifting. And like even though this is now 3 years after our premiere this season, just the first 2 chapters have set up everything that we've seen here. And even Andor season 1, like all these events have been occurring to get to this point.
And if you've seen Rogue One, I mean, you're literally what this has done so well that so many other properties could follow, i.e. the Marvels of the world, the DCs, any of these big universes. If you want to find a way to shoot a movie like they did in Rogue One and then build this nothing character to be a fucking legend, just follow this formula. Like, I remember watching Rogue One and I was like, don't get me wrong, amazing movie, incredible Star Wars property.
My favorite,
and there was
my favorite Disney one.
Yeah, it's like, it is really, really neat character. But Jesus Christ, for the last season and a half of building this person's legend, this legacy. I mean, good God, could people learn from this?
Well, I'll start on my last note since you brought Rogue One. And after watching this, I'll tie Rogue One into some storylines as we go through it. But my last final thought was, like, Tony Gilroy came in at the end of Rogue One to do a couple of rewrites and some reshoots because they didn't quite think Gareth Edwards' story was quite cohesive, right? I can't just help now think, like, I love Gareth Edwards, but now I can't help but think, what if they just tapped Tony Gilroy to do it from the get-go? And, like, what Rogue One would have been. Mind you, this series wouldn't have been created then either, but like, it's just, the man and not only Gilroy, but like his other writers and the directors are just, this crew is literally top notch. And I know Tony Gilroy said he's probably not going to do Star Wars again, but they got to retain everybody else and put them on something. All right, so let's hop into it. We start off with episode 7 on Yavin, and now we saw it, I think, in the first chapter. Now it's fully being used by the rebellion. Just, again, looks fantastic. We see Wilmon finally returns, and people were speculating, will he like maybe stay with Saw or become super radicalized, like after he's gone through all that with Saw's, like with the partisans? But he definitely. Well, we find out he's been on Gorman running missions for Luthen, and you can tell he wants action now. And he kind of comes up with, Dedra's on Gorman. She's gettable. Like, we have to do this for Ferrix. He has to do it for his, was it his father that died on Ferrix? Obviously she was behind Bix being tortured as well. So, like, we got to make this move. And then you see Cassian struggling. He's hurt. And he's struggling with this, like, can I just pull the plug? Like, I'm tired of being this tool. But also this, like, if he doesn't do it, who else is going to do it? And they keep bringing it up, like, you're a leader. Like, people want to follow you. And it takes this entire arc for Cassian to finally have that set in for him. And there's a couple of interesting things that happen on Yavin. One is the Force healer. It's an interesting way to portray it because normally anyone who can use the Force, everyone normally thinks Jedi, right? This person claims to maybe could use the Force for Force healing, but most people look at her like she's a bit of a witch doctor, it's just a big scam and stuff like that. And she obviously has a powerful reaction to Cassian and freaks him out a little bit.
I thought that was really well placed. This is the first time we've seen anything what one might call traditional Star Wars implanted in this series. And I thought they did it really tastefully.
Yeah. And as I said, it's an interesting way to use the Force in a different way, right? Like, this person just feels they might be more in tune to, like, something else and can heal and stuff like that, right? And obviously she's seeing don't want to say like force visions, but she's having some sort of foresight as well. She's delivering kind of like Cassian's a messenger and all that. We get the return of General Draven from Rogue One. He's clearly the one operating Yavin base. They name drop Dodonna, who's essentially, I don't know if you could say he's the leader of the overall rebellion at this point, but he's definitely the leader of like the Gold Squadron and that type of stuff. So he has the biggest faction. So they name drop him, which is cool. And then we get, Cassian and Bix have some of their convos. And again, lots of interesting moments between them. But then we get Cassian's like, okay, I have to do this. We're going with Wilmon. They hop in a U-Wing. And before they go, Draven gives them the speech. Like, you can't just come and go. Like, you're either with us, the rebellion. Like, we don't want privateers, essentially. Like, you got to make a commitment. And more or less says, like, we'll talk about it after.
The day I can't do that is the day I'm done.
Yeah. So they hop in a U-Wing, and we get some pretty sweet scenes of that U-Wing flying low through Gorman.
I knew you'd love that.
It's beautiful. It's not even a battle, but just the way he's whipping through the canyon.
Job with flights and these ships and the way that they've been shown and moving. I mean,
I'm just crossing my fingers because there's been so many shots of obviously the X-Wings at Yavin, Saw's like flight group too. I'm thinking the last arc we're going to get some sort of bit of a space battle going on. But we get to Gorman, and this is where this is just a masterclass in how to ramp up tension. We get the background with what Dedra's doing. She gets the new captain, or whatever the guy's name was, the Scar. He's basically running the ground crew. She's running the other OPSEC. So they're kind of like not reporting to each other and running their own things. But you could see they're setting up to bait the people of Gorman to the plaza. And they're coming when they open up the memorial because that's where they want to be. And Cyril finds out, and he like loses it that Dedra's been lying to him this whole time. And he's been lying in with the Gorman rebels. Like, he's gotten somewhat, I don't want to say close to these people, but he like understands he understands their plight and stuff like that. And like, he like full on like aggressively chokes Dedra and basically says, fuck off. Like, I can't believe you've done all this behind my back. Like, what have you done? So then we got all these parts. We got people coming in, they're chanting, the singing starts. You see the Empire slowly, barricading, getting set up. And then you see all our main characters start weaving their way into the square. And that's where the massacre is going to happen. So you got Wilmon in there, you got Cassian, you got Cyril, you have all the people on Gorman who we've been following the last couple chapters. Everyone's kind of in play, and the only one you really know who survives is Cassian out of all this. And it just keeps ramping up expertly, and then till the point where it pops off. And it pops off because the Empire started. They had that sniper and dressed in regular clothes shoot one of the green recruits they brought in. And then
God, that line of these are kids.
Yeah. And multiple times, like, these kids are just kids. They're just kids. You sure you want to put them out there? They're like, yep. And they were going to pop off the second drama happened. Yeah. The stormtroopers close in, and it's just, it's basically slaughter. I'm surprised Cassie didn't seem as panicked as you'd think, being kind of caught in that. He's just, the whole time, his eyes are like looking up, like, I just got to get Dedra, and then I'm kind of out of here. But then you can tell Dedra's panicking that Cyril's out there, and Cyril finds Cassian. They have their little fight, and I love Cassian just like, who are you? Doesn't even know that this is the guy who's been literally hunting him for years. And then we get Cyril meets his end. The girl's the main person's father, or the Gorman rebel's father, blasts him right in the head. And then just to fast forward a little bit, the episode ends with his mother sitting in a living room with her friends watching the news show, and they say a line, something like something about like the price we have to pay for peace or something like that on Gorman, and it just cuts to her face when Cyril had just died. So I thought that was just very like touching, because she's watching it not knowing that her son was the one who paid the price for what's going on in Gorman.
And I think that it's, I mean, there's so many kudos that we're going to throw out to this arc and this show in general. But what I loved so much about the end of that second episode is, despite this horrific massacre that was going on, you really like Cyril at the end of it, and even Dedra, who is an evil, horrible human being.
Yeah,
like that show of vulnerability from her at the end. I mean, they did such a good job making you, in a weird way, love the characters that you should be hating.
Yeah, like Cyril hated what was happening and he was full on ready to leave. So like, not that he would be a rebel or anything like that, but he was able to recognize this isn't right. But Dedra recognized it kind of isn't right, but she just kind of swallows. I think she made me mention it doesn't matter if we were here or not. Like they were still going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So she kind of recognizes if I do this, I'll be rewarded. And, so there's some obedience there, even if it doesn't sit well with her.
Mm-hmm.
There was I liked that the bellhop kid was back and he recognizes Cassian when he's not in his like designer thing, and then
I love that.
Yeah.
And you hear an iconic line: "Rebellions are built on hope."
Yeah, he drops that.
I was like, ah!
Yeah. And then and I had it down to when Cyril says, or when Cassian says, "Who are you?" or something like that. Krennic also says that to Jyn at the end of Rogue One as well. So like there's another line there they used. And then I guess the other big thing with the Gorman massacre is we get they have the KX droids get deployed, and then we get to see how K2SO. The only thing out of the entire arc, I would say the only thing that kind of not bugged me, but I thought was just odd was why Cassian wanted to take that droid. Like literally people are getting massacred all over the streets, and they smash it in half, and you can tell he's just staring at it and he couldn't let it be. And he's like, got them to help him put it in. It just seemed, I don't know why in that moment he'd want to take a broken droid with everything going on, but maybe he saw the destruction they were doing. Like they were just, when he tosses the buddy's daughter and throws her halfway across the plaza. Yeah. And she just RIPs. Like I was like, okay, like they're like badasses. So maybe he wanted to take it as a weapon. I don't know. But either way, and you could tell which one K2SO was too, because when they activated them all, that one turns its head and does that stare. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we get the birth of K2SO and Cassian's relationship from there. And then we kind of move on to everything that's going on Coruscant. And again, lots of these themes have been misinformation, suppression of information, the fear of people speaking out. You see the senator from Gore being taken away by stormtroopers. He's been arrested on the floor when it was Mon Mothma asking him a year ago, pleading with him to like join her and like protest. And he was the one who said, I can't go against the Emperor. And until his people finally get massacred, and now he's speaking out, and then he's being silenced. And I just love how like everyone's okay. Like this is our next phase. Mon's going to say something. Like someone has to say something. She's the one who has to say it. She's going to speak out, and then we got to get her out. And we get an interesting plot kind of twist that's that there's 2 escape plans, and she's got to choose which one she's going to go with.
Yep.
Again, great suspense of not kind of knowing what's going to happen. Mon Mothma's speech obviously slays it. It's a little bit, I haven't seen Secret Cargo in a while, but I know there's some clips of her, I believe, in the Senate, and the speech is obviously a little bit different. But I don't have any problem with that. I thought the live version was absolutely fantastic. And I love at the very end, just name dropping Palpatine, and then they kind of cut her off. And then Cassian's waiting for her, and I love that. Cassian says all the right things, and then I guess she doesn't really have the other option to go with the other girl because that Imperial agent just basically blows her cover right away and has her at gunpoint.
And I love how Cassian doesn't hesitate. Wastes the driver. Like,
and Mon Mothma's like, you shot that woman. He's like, yeah. So like it finally got real for her because she's obviously knew that Tate or whatever her friend was killed, but she never quite knew, like she never quite had her hands dirty. So I thought the escape, the tension to get out, and again, Cassian's just an absolute beast to get her out of there. And then they had like a nice quiet moment back at Cassian's apartment where she's finally calming down and she's like, oh, like you used to live here. Like you could just feel everything just got real for her. And then Cassian has a nice line where he says, basically, you better make it worth it.
Yeah. I don't know how I'll ever be able to thank you.
Yeah.
Make it worth it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah. And then it ties in with So in Rebels, right, Secret Cargo, the Phoenix Squad has to meet up with Gold Squadron, who has Mon Mothma, for her to make her speech to the rebellion and what's going on.
Yeah.
So we kind of see there's her Senate speech. She gets out, and it's nice because Cassian gets her out, and then she gets handed off. So now we know, if you connect all the dots, how she got out of Coruscant was because our boy Cassian got her the heck out of there.
Yeah.
So then she can make that speech. And then when we get back to Yavin, I like that Draven's like, oh, her speech is going to be coming on. They're broadcasting it everywhere. And Cassian's like, oh, I've heard her talk before, which I thought was just an interesting way to basically be like, he's heard the first speech. He doesn't need to hear the second speech. And as fans, we've all watched Rebels and have seen the second speech. So I thought it was like a neat little way they set the story up.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know, just an absolute masterclass in storytelling.
Let's talk about Bix at the end.
Yeah. So
because this is not what we thought. You and I had
speculated. No, we said she was probably going to die, which was going to fuel it. And this is, I'm not going to lie, I got super emotional with Bix's final message. You could tell something was up when Cassian got back and she pieces out and gives him the message. And essentially, if she stays, Cassian won't be the leader the rebellion wants him to be. Cassian's always going to be thinking about the future with Bix wanting to leave and stuff like that. So she makes the decision and she says, I chose the rebellion over us, sort of thing. Because at first I was like, why the fuck is she leaving? Like, it might be kind of weird. But as she kept going on and on, I was like, okay, this is crazy. And then just even when she says the part about when this is all over, we could then be together and do all the things you want to do, which hits you in the feels, because then in Rogue One, he's going to die, so they're never going to get that moment. So that's kind of like the last goodbye for Cassian and Bix. So yeah, a bit of a sad moment for Cassian to move on. But then you can tell he's like spaced out when it's all happening. They're like, oh, the shuttle's left this morning. She's like gone. And then I thought it was kind of a neat way to kind of distract him in the moment, be like, hey, we're powering up that droid right away. And then he comes wandering in, and then we get K2SO powering up.
Yeah, this arc was an absolute masterpiece. There's no other way to describe it. I'm glad, it sounds really lame, but I'm glad that was the path they chose for Bix and not the way we originally thought.
Yeah, because I don't know. It's maybe, I don't want to say it's too dark, but like just to kill everyone, like they killed everyone in Rogue One, seemed a little bit off. And like it felt like that's the way they were going after the first two episodes, right? We lost a main character first chapter and one next chapter. We lost Cyril in this one. That it was trending that way. So it was interesting to see that Bix just decides to leave on her own. Yeah. So not that she gets a happy ending, at least, she kind of gets away, and who knows what she's doing. Maybe like, cause Luthen and his rebel cell still ain't a part of this main rebellion. They're very much an outsider, like Saw Gerrera is. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe she works. I don't know. I doubt we're not going to see her again, I don't think. But I wonder, like, just storyline in the background, if she went to work with Luthen or she just settled down somewhere. Yeah. But yeah, absolute. I don't know what else to say. Like, it was literally an epic story from start to finish. Like, insane tension. The same things we keep saying. Like, everything looked absolutely beautiful. The sets, the costumes, the special effects. Yeah,
cinematically, it was incredible. They did such a good job with the audio score at the massacre. Even the pan out as they're escaping after he shoots the driver, they pan out really set on. And I think there's a lot of visual reasons why they did it that way. After he waves the driver, you see them move that out, and they can see this big, beautiful thing that is, Coruscant, and I think it was done so well because there's so much ugliness that existed within such a beautiful space, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely like A+ this arc. Like, and like everyone loves the Kino Loy speech, the Marv's like funeral speech, like the one Luthen speech when he's talking to Lonnie. Like the Mon Mothma speech is right up there with them, and Bix's goodbye is also right up there. Yeah, and there's lots of small moments too, like we talked about, that resonate a lot. But yeah, what score you got?
I was 8-8. The problem with this arc is I can't find a flaw. And that's tough because we're in the third of fourth arc. I started 8-3. I went to 8-8, I think, last week. I'm gonna go 9-1, only because I know that there's more to come. But it's a 9-1, and I can't justify why it's not higher, other than I know that there's more of the story to come.
The second those credits rolled, I said to myself in my head, that's a 9.5. And that's where I went. And then I thought about it literally all night. And again, this morning, knowing we were going to talk about it, and I thought maybe I should be higher because, again, I don't know what else they could have done more.
Yeah, I cannot find a single flaw. Like, as its own arc, to me, it's up there with the highest I've ever scored anything.
Yeah, I think about it. To me, it's similar.
Because it's part of the whole thing. It's almost like the Dune 2, Dune 3, right? Like almost perfect pieces, but together it could be absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and next week you would imagine the final chapter is going to push it even more. But now, like, I don't even know where they're going with it now because Mon Mothma's now with the rebels. She's left the Senate. The Gorman incident is done with. Now, I mean, there's always going to be still a little follow and stuff like that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do to get us towards Rogue One. Like, what's that one more step? And maybe it's finding more stuff out about the Death Star. I don't know. The one thing they didn't touch on, actually, one thing was Mon Mothma's family. Like, obviously, I'm assuming Perrin and her family weren't on Coruscant when that happened. Maybe you could just assume if she knew what she was going to say, they were on Chandrilla, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but with her, it'd be interesting in, like, with her doing what she did, calling out Palpatine, and then being public enemy #1, you'd almost think like her family would be in trouble. So I wonder, if anyone went to pick them up or not. But exciting stuff. Can't wait to see how this wraps up next week. And like they've said, like once it finishes, like everyone should go watch Rogue One. And I could tell it already feels like Rogue One's going to be a different watch.
Yeah. And I will definitely be doing that.
Yeah. All right. So that'll wrap it up for us. Let us know in the comments what you guys thought of this arc, and we will see y'all next week. Peace out.